just about 10 seconds away. And we are streaming live. Here we go.
Go take a nap. I'm going to take that away from you.
It's time for Clubhouse Chatter as we continue on this Sunday morning. Here's Norm Ordez.
Hey, that's right, and thanks for watching and listening. So our next guest, we had Jackie Robinson Day on Friday. Major League Baseball and baseball remembered the man, Jackie Robinson, and our next guest is Carl Erskine, who was a teammate of Jackie. Carl, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. Well, thank you for calling me. I'm in Indiana. We're 3 hours different, so I know you haven't had lunch yet.
I had a big breakfast. So my first question is when you see, Major League Baseball, throughout Major League Baseball on the 14th, the 15th, they all wear the uniform number 42. When you see that, what do you think?
Yeah, I played with Jackie 9 seasons. Now, I missed his rookie year. I was in the minors. That was 1947. That's when he literally faced the first round in the National League. And of course, he proved himself real fast and was voted Rookie of the Year. But I came up in 48 the next year. Then I played 9 seasons with Jackie. Well, we had a great team. We had a lot of Hall of Famers. I don't think any of us knew the history that was actually being made. We were all on one-year contracts. It was right after World War II. America was regrouping. Families were reconnected. There was a great feeling in the country in 1948, 40, the postseason years. And so that played a little bit maybe into America being ready for Mr. Ricky's experiment, as he called it, to bring Jackie up. I don't know how he got 42. I think it was just an absolute luck of the draw because there was no significant number of 42. When I got my uniform was 17. I didn't have anything to do with picking the number. And I think Jackie just got 42 as random. But as he played out his seasons and began to become the icon in America that he is now, it was significant. And there's some great pictures of teams standing with their backs showing all uniforms 42. Mm-hmm. And I know that I know this could be debatable with anybody that saw the 27 Yankees play, but most of them are not around anymore. To say that there could ever be a name in baseball bigger than Babe Ruth, I don't think anybody could imagine that. But in this year of 2016, when Jackie Robinson's appearing through various media, documentaries, interviews, a few guys left that played with Jackie, I think we have seen the phenomenal move that Jackie Robinson's name is bigger in baseball now than anybody. And I don't think that happened quickly. It took a long time for America to see what his significance was, not only for the game, but in our whole culture. So, yeah, when I see 42, baby, I say, glad, because I like you to play with him.
And it's crazy because it's throughout baseball. I was noticing my friend Nova Newcomer up in Portland. She's the executive director for Friends of Baseball. Her Little League team, she had her kids wear the number 42, and I noticed that Lower Columbia Community College, they wore the number 42 up there in Longview, Washington. So it's not just Major League Baseball; it's baseball wide. And I don't know if there will ever be another number retired Major League Baseball wide. I know there's talk of Babe Ruth's number 3 being retired, but I don't know how much steam that has got. But this could be.
Well, I don't think. I don't think Major League Baseball ever retired officially the number for all teams until Jackie's 42 was retired. Although guys that wore it were grandfathered in.
Right.
But I don't think Major League Baseball ever required all teams in professional baseball to now retire a number until they retired 42. I don't think Babe Ruth's number was ever retired for all teams. I'm not positive of that, but I think I'm right.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been, and I'm not so sure that it will be. You know, I think number 42, Jackie Robinson's number, could be the only number that Major League Baseball retires throughout the league. So,
well,
you know.
What the number, once you get the history, Ken Burns just did a very fine piece, a two-part series on Jackie's life. When you get a glimpse of his life, where he came from, how he acquired any kind of status, how he became a college man at a time when baseball players hardly ever went to college. We were all signed in our teens, and hardly any of us, unless we went later, were out of college. So Jackie had a lot of preparation, but he didn't know for what.
Right.
It turns out that the prep he did by being a great athlete all through his young years and into college, and then Mr. Ricky to search worldwide. I played in Cuba one winter, and I played with a couple of guys. One was Silvio Garcia, who was a shortstop. He was on Mr. Ricky's list, too. Now, Mr. Ricky didn't necessarily look for an African American. He looked for a black-skinned player. So he could have possibly picked a guy from the islands or somewhere. But when he put all the pieces together, Jackie not only could play, Jackie had an intellect about him. He'd been raised with a lot of discipline by his mother, who was a strong Christian, and Jackie was raised to respect other people. And Jackie was a clean-spoken person, very articulate. And then when Mr. Ricky met Rachel, Mr. Ricky wanted all of us young players to be married. He didn't like us living in big hotels and floating around single. He wanted his players to be married. And so when he met Rachel, and she is a high-class person, very well educated, college graduate, a beautiful lady. When he met Rachel, and he said, this guy has got it all. If he can contain his temper, if he can hold his temper, and he can be passive in spite of the heat he's going to take, this is my man. So there were several components for Jackie that other great black athletes probably couldn't match. And so then Jackie, of course, proved Mr. Ricky right.
You know, and at the time, I mean, you could have gone Josh Gibson, you could have gone Satchel Paige. I mean, there was a number of black, baseball players who might have been able to do the same thing. But, you got to, in being in a situation like that, you've got to have the right temperament. You've got to have a different temperament,
Well,
and
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't overrule you except to say this. The temperament comes from self-control.
Absolutely.
And so that's what you really got to have. You got to have control of your emotions. You've got to suppress your natural reactions. I saw Jackie take a lot of heat. I saw him take knockdown pitches, hard slides, abuse from the bench, abuse from the stands. Not just with him, but his family. I mean, he took it all. Now, baseball is a hard-nosed game, so there's a lot of heat comes to the dugouts for anybody. And if they think you hear it, you're going to get more. In Jackie's case, he was such a target, but he was able. And believe me, I saw Jackie play, hit home runs, steal bases, do the whole thing. But the most remarkable part of Jackie's career was he never retaliated. There's no record anywhere that Jackie ever pushed somebody, hit somebody in the parking lot, in a restaurant, anywhere on the field. Never happened. That, to me, was a mark of a man who knew what he was trying to do and knew he couldn't take it personally, and so he didn't. And it was pinned up in him blatantly. When the gag order came off after 2 years, it just gushed out of Jackie, and so he got to be pretty controversial. But what he said, and the way he said it, was all on the side of restraint. He was strong with his words, strong with his voice, but never physical in any way. And to me, that was the mark that Jackie had to have. And I think Mr. Ricky said, if you can't do that, this won't work. And so turn the other cheek was biblical, and Jackie understood it. But he not only understood it, he made it work. He lived it out.
And that's something that, we, as Caucasians, I mean, I don't know if we could ever understand what he went through. Being African American, breaking that color line. I mean, you've seen the movie 42, you've seen Branch Ricky's, special, but that they're kind of dumbing it down. It had to have been way worse than what it actually, what they've actually reported. I don't know.
Here's how it played out, as Rachel has attested to many times. It played out in so many ways other than on the field, because Jackie was a hero. He became quickly an exciting player. People packed the ballparks. They packed it to boo him or to cheer him, but they packed the ballparks. Every place we played, we had big crowds, spring training or regular season. But where the real test was, too, was off the field. When Jackie took his uniform off and walked out onto the street in his civvies, he was just another black man in America.
Yep.
There were no special privileges. He didn't have any edge on anything. He still endured the indignities of restaurants refusing to serve him, hotels refusing to let him stay. Nobody mentions this, but it took 7 years in the National League for all the hotels to accept black guests. The last one was St. Louis, the Park Chase Hotel in St. Louis, in 1954. Jackie had been in the league since 47 and stayed in private homes or in black-only hotels. So the National League and the culture of the times was very slow. And not the National League per se, the baseball, but the National League cities were very slow in accepting black guests. And then if you go back and dig the history up, it took a long time for other teams to begin to sign black players. And it was a slow process. But Jackie endured all that, and he did it with dignity. And so did Rachel. So the two of them together really are inseparable. The fact that Jackie was on the field 5-6 hours a day, but he was off the field all the 7 hours. And that's where Rachel was his strength and his best critic. She didn't always agree with how Jackie handled things, as she told me. But I got a lot of admiration for Jackie, but also for Rachel.
It definitely takes a special woman to be a part of something like that. I remember, watching my parents, as I grew up. My dad was, served in the Army for 21 years, and being a military wife, on how strong my mom had to be. And, and it's really surprised us since Dad's death on how strong my mom is. And, and it's all been prepping her for that day. And she just totally blows us away. And, behind every good man, there's a great woman.
Well, I don't think there's a question about that. My own life plays that out. Excuse me, I've been married 68 years to my little sweetheart from high school, and Betty went through all the travel problems, raising a family on the road, strange towns, try to make a life and get the kids educated and feed me and get me to the ballpark on time. And the wives are one of my great stories is I was pitching against the Giants in New York, and my wife was home in Brooklyn with my 2 boys, and she was ironing by the TV watching me pitch against the Giants, and she was ironing a tablecloth, and I was pitching pretty good, so she kept ironing the tablecloth, and she didn't want to quit ironing because I was pitching good. So she ironed the tablecloth for 9 innings, and she never coached a spot, and I never allowed a hit. I know they had the Giants that day, and Betty ironed the tablecloth for 9 innings. So I said, well, that's really teamwork.
Wow. So, we hear of, what kind of man Jackie was, you see on the specials and stuff like that. But as a teammate and, being on the road with him, being on the same field in the same clubhouse, give us a little more of an insight than, what we see on TV. I mean, can you give us a little bit more on what type of man he was?
Yeah, well, first of all, I sort of described him, his basics. So he was intelligent. He was also a conservative kind of thinker. He believed in hard work, preparation. He didn't like the idea of just subsidizing life. He wanted you to earn it like he did. And I did a lot of things off the field with Jackie. We did a lot of youth programs in high schools, and we started a baseball program in Fort Wayne, Indiana, called Wildcat Baseball. And they didn't have any program for the kids in the city parks in Fort Wayne back in the 60s, except Little League. But they had Little League tryouts, and only about 20% of the kids could make Little League teams, so 80% of those kids didn't get to play. And Mr. McMillan, a wealthy man in Fort Wayne, called me and called Jackie and said, would you come up and help me set up a league for all the kids that can't make Little League? So in the parks in Fort Wayne, over 50 years ago, it's in the early 60s, Mr. McMillan had Jackie, and they come up, and we did clinics in all the parks, 5,000 participants, and
wow.
That is still going on. This past year, 2015, they had over 4,000 kids in Wildcat baseball in Fort Wayne. So that was one of the things Jackie and I got to do together off the field. And then Jackie came to my hometown, spoke a couple times. I met Jackie in the minors. I pitched against the big team in a preseason game, and I didn't know anybody on a big club at Fort Worth, Texas. I came and played their affiliate, AA, and I pitched 5 or 6 innings against the big club. And after the game, I heard somebody say, "Where's Erskine?" And I stepped out of the Fort Worth dugout, and it was Jackie. And he had come across the field and looked me up by name and said, "Son, I hit against you twice today. You're not going to be in this league very long." Well, by the time mid-July, I won 15 games in AA, and they called me to the Dodgers. The first guy to my locker with the Dodgers was Jackie. He shook my hand. He said, "I told you couldn't miss." So he and I had a bonding real early on, and then my 9th season with Jackie, he saved my no-hitter against the Giants, incidentally, with a smash by Willie Mays. It was a sure base hit, and Jackie went third base, turned it into an easy out. So I got a lot of memories of Jackie, other than just the games. But he gave himself. And later he said, actually, I may have given myself too much, because his son, Jackie Jr., got killed in an auto accident. He was very remorseful that he hadn't spent enough time with his own kids. And he's probably right. We all are guilty of taking time away from the family to go to Little League banquets and youth programs of various kinds. And that's important to do that. But when he lost his son, Jackie Jr., he had a lot of remorseful feelings, because he felt like he maybe had not given him as much time. But Jackie was a real person. He bled when he got cut, and he hurt when he got hit. He was emotionally strong, but he was never satisfied either. He felt like that it was too slow. The progress was too slow. But if Jackie hadn't died when he was 52 or 3 years old, Jackie passed away with diabetes, heart problem. But after his death, all the NBA, the NFL, there have been mayors of cities, a congressman, and a president of the United States of color. Now, you got to give Jackie some credit for that. He opened some doors 10 years before Martin Luther King came on the scene. So he's now getting the credit that he deserved. But history takes about 50 to 100 years to see what it really did. How did it play out? And in this case, America, all races, now see what Jackie did was monumental. And he deserves more than just the Hall of Fame status, although in America, baseball did a great thing to present the stage for Jackie to perform on to get this started. So Jackie's in the Hall of Fame, and there's something symbolic about that. The plaques at the Hall of Fame with the greatest players who ever played, Jackie's plaque is right there with them, and they're all the same color.
Yep.
There's no black and white in the Hall of Fame. They're all bronze. That's very symbolic to me.
Man, you had quite the career yourself, and you look at the boys of summer. You look at the Brooklyn Dodgers. You look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, you could just start rattling off Hall of Famers that you had played with. And what was the biggest thing that you took away from your playing career? I know you went on to Anderson and managed, your hometown university for a number of years, but your major league career, what was the biggest thing you took away from it?
Well, there's more than one answer to that. My best personal performance in the big leagues was a '53 World Series. Excuse me. After I failed my first start, they brought me back with short rest, and I beat the Yankees 3-2. But I had 14 strikeouts, which at that time was a World Series record.
Right.
That was my very best day ever. But I could cancel out that. I could cancel out the 2 no-hitters. I got to win opening day a few times, even in Los Angeles. I got to pitch the opener, got to win the first win in L.A. All those are big headlines, but you could cancel all those out. If I had to say the biggest thing was the team I played for, we were personally very close. We played together for at least a decade, 10 or 12 years. And the personalities on that team, my catcher, Roy Campanella, first base, Gil Hodges, second base, Jackie, shortstop, Pee Wee Reese. We had a variety of third basemen. My roommate was Duke Snyder. 10 seasons I roomed with Duke. We were close as brothers, really. Carl Ferrillo in right field. This team, to be privileged to play for that team, where we won, in my 12 seasons, we won the National League Championship 6 times and 2 World Series. One in Brooklyn, one in L.A. I'd have to put that. No personal performance could top the privilege of playing in the major leagues with that team. And I think it would go down as one of the great all-time teams, too, because
absolutely,
not only Jackie, but the numbers that Snyder put up, Campanella, Robinson. Of course, I played with Koufax and Drysdale as well, another 2 Hall of Famers who came along a little later in my career, but played with them. Austin and Tommy Lasorda, Hall of Famers. Hall of Fame guys all over the place. And so, I could cancel out my personal accomplishments and say, to have been there and pitched and played for that team, that's got to be the top of the list.
That's pretty cool. And, man, I think Gil Hodges belongs in the Hall of Fame, by the way. And so... Yeah,
that's a tough one. He's one of those borderline guys. He deserves to be in, but he hadn't quite gotten the specific votes. But it's never over. I mean... That
is true.
He can come up again. There's a lot of guys, though, that are borderline and come up every year. It's tough for the Old Timers Committee because they can only put one person in every 2 years.
Right.
So it makes it tougher than ever. But Gil, I think Gil, in a way, is already in the Hall of Fame. He was on that great team, that great infield. He gets mentioned right along with the guys that are in the Hall. And so while he didn't get the plaque yet, he's recognized as one of the boys of summer.
Absolutely. And, how many, you look back, and so you guys are dubbed the boys of summer. I mean, besides the Gas House Gang with the Cardinals, I mean, how many other, teams had nicknames like that?
Yeah, well, we only had the great infield, remember, with Garvey, Say, and Billy Russell, second baseman.
Davey Lopes, yeah.
I got to know all those guys at the fantasy camps. And there've been some other great combinations. There've been some great pitchers down through the years. The Boys of Summer, I don't know, somehow Roger Kahn wrote the book, and it was one of the classic pieces of baseball literature, or literature, period. The way he wrote it, the characters he wrote about, and then the videos that have come after that, the specials, the documentaries, and then Jackie himself. Look, I had a decent career. I'm not apologizing for my career, but at this point in my life, I'd be so far back in the woodwork, I'd know anything about Erskine, except I played on a team, and I played with Robinson, and that doesn't go away. And so my career has been enhanced substantially by the guys I played with and the era that I played in. We saw lights introduced for the first time. We rode planes for the first time. We went from radio to TV the first time. We went from East Coast to West Coast. We went from all white to integrated. All that happened in the decade of 47 to 57. So, you couldn't have picked a time in history to be recorded a part of even the great era before us when Ruth was getting baseball really established. But that decade from 47 to 57, there's a documentary called Ghosts of Flatbush. Mm-hmm. That's about the Brooklyn era and about the baseball switch to the West Coast and all that. It's a good documentary.
That is a lot over a 10-year period. You just rattled off, a number of things. I mean, lights, going from the East Coast to the West Coast, airplanes, radio to TV. That's a lot to happen in a 10-year period.
It all happened in that decade. So I'm saying if you had to pick a time in history to be a ball player in the big leagues and play in New York, you could have picked a more significant. Everybody that plays has a golden era. The Big Red Machine in Cincinnati. To those guys and those fans, that's the golden era. But the truest golden era to me in baseball was the three teams in New York City, and then all those things that happened in that decade of 47 to 57. It's going to be hard to match that in any decade in the history of baseball because of the significance of all those historic things that took place.
Well, and they're not just, baseball history, baseball history. It's just, in life, as well. Jackie Robinson, the integration. And, there's a life story there, the technology phase, going from radio to, TV, the transportation phase, trains, buses to airplanes. And so, it's all very fascinating.
Well, baseball was actually trapped in the northwest quadrant of the United States for 100 years because of transportation. There was not a team west of St. Louis for the first 100 years of baseball.
Right.
Only the jet plane made it possible to expand to anything between St. Louis and the West Coast. So once the jet plane became viable and came on the airlines, everybody's flying coast to coast in 4.5 hours, you had a chance then to keep a schedule. And so that's how expansion to the West Coast actually happened, was the jet plane.
Hey, do you have your harmonica handy?
No, I don't have right here.
we were hoping you could bust out take me out to the ball game for us, but next time we'll get you.
I don't know if I can find it quick enough, but well, that's been a fun hobby for me to I played since I was a little kid.
Right.
I do not read music, but I can play most anything. I can whistle. If I can whistle, it's in my head. I can come close to playing it. But I got a little band in Anderson, Indiana. We play for senior groups. We play for hospitals, a lot of city functions. And I've done the national anthem many times. I've done it at Dodger Stadium 3 or 4 times, and then I've done it at the NBA in Indianapolis for the Indiana Pacers, and so I've gotten a lot of exposure for an amateur. But you want to hold on a minute?
Sure.
That's awesome. Carl's the greatest. And those of you who are listening, Carl actually just sent me a baseball back
Yes.
weeks ago.
Mr. Carl Erskine. Carl, that is awesome. You know, I love having you on the show. One, not only are you a great man, but your baseball history, and you played, like you said, you played in the golden era of baseball. I'm not going to argue with that. As a baseball fan, tons of stuff happened, and you were a part of it. And it's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate the West Coast, too. I didn't get to play my best years in Los Angeles. I did get to pitch the opener in the Coliseum. It wasn't a fantastic game, but we won, beat the Giants. I got the win, and so I do have a link with L.A., and the L.A. fans are so accommodating. When I go back for some function, even though my best years were in New York, they treat me like I played my whole career in Los Angeles. So I'm grateful to the fans there, and that blended piece of history from New York to L.A. I'm so happy I've got to be a transition player, get to play on both coasts. And I have 2 World Series rings. I have one in Brooklyn in '55, and I have one in Los Angeles in '59. So that's pretty rare to get one, but to get one in both coasts, that's another remarkable piece of my baseball career.
So we have for you, our sponsor, one of our sponsors over at baseballisms.com, they have a number 42 shirt out. And we got a large for you, so we're going to put it in the mail tomorrow, and we're going to mail it to you. And so somewhere along the line, if you could get a picture of you in it, that'd be awesome. But, it's our thanks, and, it's our way of, celebrating Jackie Robinson and what he did for baseball, and you are a connection to that. And, once again, thank you for coming on the show, and we would love to have you on again soon.
Well, thank you again. I appreciate being remembered, and you're welcome to call me anytime.
Thank you, Carl. Hey, you have a good afternoon.
Thank you a lot. Bye-bye.
All right. Once again, Mr. Carl Erskine, baseball history. Man, you go up and down that lineup. Gil Hodges, Jackie Robinson, Pee Wee Reese, Duke Snyder, Roy Campanella. And then you throw in Koufax, Drysdale, Lasorda. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. The Boys of Summer. If you haven't read, you're looking for a good baseball book to read The Boys of Summer. Baseball history. He talks about that 10-year period from 47 to 57. You've got the integration of African Americans into baseball. Jackie Robinson. You've got the lights. Night games. You've got airplanes flying from the East Coast to the West Coast. What else did he say? The TV, going from radio to TV.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
huge.
Those are huge.
Huge.
We can never imagine them because we grew up with the TV. We grew up with planes. And in some parts of the country, there really isn't any. I know racism still exists, but there isn't necessarily blacks only anymore. There might be some places, but not around here. And just a great guy. And one of the stories that I loved, I asked him a while back about the Giants-Dodgers rivalry because it is one of the best not only in baseball, but in sports, period. He said when he retired from baseball, he went back to Anderson, Indiana, and was coaching at Anderson College. It's now Anderson University. He said he walked into the locker room and saw the jerseys, that they were orange and black, and he knew that he had to change them. You know, orange and black is the Giants' colors. You know, and there's that rivalry stepping up. You know, it is said that, Willie Mays was, going to go play for the Dodgers, but that didn't happen. You know, there's that rivalry. So, plus we also got serenaded. How about that?
That was classic. I mean, Carl Erskine played, taking me out to the ball game on Clubhouse Chatter. That's awesome.
On his harmonica.
That's awesome.
What a day. Hey, I'm Norm. That is Brian. We are Clubhouse Chatter. Hey, check us out. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, MLB.com/blogs. We are sponsored by baseballisms.com. If you like my Jackie Robinson hat, and if you like the Robinson 42 shirt, you can buy them on baseballisms.com. Great guys, great product. Check them out, baseballisms.com. We are also sponsored by baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Also, Base by Pros. Mitch Canham up there in Washington. Skipper Mitch Canham of the Clinton Lumber Kings. His dad, Mark Canham, does our shirts for Clubhouse Chatter, hoodies, and if you would like to purchase one, shoot me an email at normbo18@gmail.com. We stream live every week at yamhilltoday.com. Check us out, and hey, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. Shoot me an email if you want a shirt, or if you'd like to sponsor. We're looking for sponsors. We're on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter 1T, Facebook, YouTube. We're on iTunes, MLB.com blogs, Clubhouse Chatter. I'm Norm. That is Brian. Hey, we will be back next week with some great guests. Everybody have a good week. Hey, it's supposed to be 80 degrees. Make sure you stay hydrated.